Nigeria is a really dangerous place right now. And if you're a Christian living in this country today, you probably feel it in your spirit too. On November 17, 2025, 25 schoolgirls were abducted from a school in Maga, Kebbi State. One of them escaped that same day, but the remaining 24 were held for days until security forces rescued them. Then, on November 21st, 2025, 303 students and 12 teachers were kidnapped from St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri, Niger State. Dozens later escaped, but the trauma remains. Two attacks, 4 days. And here's what no one is saying out loud, although we're all thinking it. It feels like Christians are being haunted. It feels like our government has abandoned us. The situation has gotten so bad that even US President Donald Trump publicly warned that if Nigeria doesn't stop these attacks, America may intervene to protect Christians. So everyone is asking, are we being targeted? And by we, I mean Christians. Who are these bandits? And why can't our government protect us? That's why I'm making this video. Because we, as young Christian Nigerians, need clarity. We need truth. And I'm going to try to share my thoughts as honestly as I can on these issues. And also, we need to understand how we got here. Because these bandits, they weren't always bandits. See, the bandits started as Fulani herders facing climate change, land disputes, and economic collapse. The first thing we need to understand is that northern Nigeria's fragile balance has existed for centuries. Fulani herders moved along established grazing routes, while farmers cultivated their lands. Tension existed, yes, but life had a rhythm. Herdsmen and farmers had learned over generations to coexist. Communities knew the unspoken rules. Cattle here, crops there, and both sides surviving. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Then climate change and displacement. The rains began to fail, grazing lands dried up, rivers and ponds vanished. In the 2000s and 2010s, the Fulani herders were forced to move southward into areas more traditionally farmed by others. Land conflicts erupted. Villagers fought herders, herders defended themselves, communities fractured, and the government, you see, the government did nothing. The warnings were ignored, the disputes were unmediated, and desperation grew because people are trying to survive. That desperation turned to violence. When people are abandoned, they seek survival in the only ways left to them. Guns were picked up, kidnappings for ransom began. The first successful abduction showed others what was possible. What started as survival became opportunity, and opportunity became crime. One success became many. More young men joined the ranks. Networks formed. Ransoms brought resources, weapons, and influence. What was once scattered violence became an organized system. This is how today's bandits evolved, from desperate herders to structured armed groups. This is all a fight for survival. Today's reality is that this isn't merely a story of poverty anymore. Today, banditry is a business. These groups are coordinated, they have leaders, logistics, intelligence. The desperation of yesterday has been replaced by strategy, and the chaos of today is profitable for those who know how to navigate it. So that's how it all started. But it doesn't yet explain why Christians seem to be the focus. Let's talk about the religious angle. Truth versus perception. While some attacks target Christians, you see, the data shows they also attack Muslims, traditional leaders, and anyone with ransom potential. This is important because we're trying to get at the truth here. The first thing we need to examine is this feeling of being haunted. It feels real. It feels targeted. Churches attacked during services, pastors kidnapped, congregations terrified. The fear is valid. Every Christian who has prayed through the night knows the anxiety. The images are seared into our memory. Empty pews, burned gates, crying families. This pastor that keeps going around showing dead body, burial grounds. This is real. We can't really get a hold of the numbers because the Nigerian government hasn't given us anything solid. And everything we seem to find from external sources suggests different things. But what we can corroborate, at the very least, is there are at least half as many Muslims that have died in comparison to Christians. And the numbers are a lot because they're killing Muslims en masse. And the reason we have to evaluate this is the ideology you buy into shapes your narrative of Nigeria at current. Very important. I cannot begin to even stress how important that is. If you choose to believe that you have people in the northern part of Nigeria that are persecuting Christians, it puts us into this even more fragmented state. We are already a fragmented nation. It just heightens the division. And we need to evaluate if this division is real or if, as I'm trying to present, it's just something that they are just killing people for ransom. They're kidnapping people for ransom, right? And they're attacking whoever can pay. An ethnic cleansing is very different from armed bandits in the society. One of them has to do with disunity within the nation, and it has to do with fragmentation, and it tends to break us down into even more groups. The other is just a common societal vice that you find um, across the world, and especially in nations that are dealing with terrorism. So picking what the motive is determines the state that Nigeria currently is in, and it also determines how we react to this. And that's why we have to be very careful what we think about this. So why are they attacking churches at all? See, a congregation can mobilize 50 million naira faster than a small rural village. That money buys weapons, funds operations, and sustains the kidnapping economy. The motive is strategy. It could also be religious hatred, but it looks more like strategy to me. See, the pain is real. Yes, Christians are suffering. The fear is real. The trauma is real. But understanding the financial and the strategic motives behind the attacks matters for how we respond. Which brings us to why the government's response has been so inadequate. We need to talk about the government in this. There are whispers, too dangerous to voice openly. Some politicians may have ties to bandit groups, but here I am saying it. That ransoms are taxed, protection deals exist. The corruption might run deep. Why does this continue? The kidnapping and economy enriches too many people in power and too many people outside of power. The people of this society benefit from it. See, this is not just incompetence. At some level, this is a conscious choice, and that should anger you because it tells you that lives are being lost not by chance, but by calculation, because the vast majority of people want this to continue. And that's what democracy represents. And now we can see how profitable this business has become. See, this has become a multi-million naira industry with international connections. Take St. Mary's School, for example. 303 students and 12 teachers were kidnapped. The kidnappers demanded 100 million naira. The families panic, sell property, raise money. Churches contribute, communities mobilize, the ransom is paid. Great, hurrah, the people are free. That 100 million is split among gang leaders, foot soldiers, informants, and sometimes corrupt officials. Everyone in the chain profits. What's the ripple effect? That money is reinvested. It buys more weapons, funds recruitment, and finances future kidnappings. Success breeds replication. And at scale, what was once local crime is now a multi-billion naira industry. International arms, connections, trafficking networks, and organized strategy make it far more dangerous than before. This is no longer desperation. This is no longer a fight for survival. It is planned, structured, and financed. The kidnapping economy sustains itself, and every ransom paid strengthens it further. So what can we do as citizens and Christians living in fear? What can we do? Because we live in a world where, in a nation where people want this to continue. See, the first thing is we need to practice practical safety. We need to understand the situation. Yes. The government has failed. Yes. This is our reality. And then we need to take personal responsibility. Fear is natural, but panic is deadly. Each of us must act responsibly. Understand your environment. Be alert. Plan for emergencies. Do not condone these actions in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your culture, because that is what allows these behaviors to continue. It is the little things that you do by passing up something inconsequential in your own personal life. And then the northern guy does it as well with his brother. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter until it becomes matters arising. There are people in the north that come out and they negotiate with these bandits and they tell the families not to work with the government. Is that the government's fault? Is the government to blame for that as well? The first thing we need to look at is the budget versus reality. Nigeria has Africa's largest military budget. On paper, there are enough soldiers, funding, and equipment to protect citizens, but paper doesn't fight battles. What do we have on the ground? In reality, soldiers patrol with outdated weapons, without vehicles, and with unpaid salaries. Intelligence reports are ignored, forest operations fail, and families are told to negotiate and pay ransoms. But again, this is also very important because when we are evaluating the place of the government, we also have to evaluate the place of the people. We have some leaders in the northern part of Nigeria that come out and also tell families not to work with the government. So, is this just, and again, this is not an apology for any of the sides here. I'm not trying to defend the Christian extremist or the Muslim extremist. I'm calling people out based off of their character. And if the shoe fits, by God, wear it. There are northern leaders that have empowered this system of thinking because we know who these bandits are. I was listening to a senator recently. There was a Senate hearing, and he came up. He said something very, very powerful. He said, "We know who these bandits are. We know where they are. We know who they are. We know who their brothers are, where they eat. We know what they want, and we have refused to do nothing about it. Why? Because, in as much as we have the resources to, we have the capacity to, there are people within the communities who want these bandits to continue. It's plain and simple. When there's a problem within a society that persists over a period of time, and that problem is not eradicated, it's not kicked out of society, it is because the problem is a product of the generally accepted mores of that society. That is to say, the problem is enabled by the society itself. And that is why you can't find a panacea to the problem. It's like trying to kill yourself. You can't do it. So the government is complicit, but so are the northern leaders, so are the northern people. This is one big mess. We're all muddled up into it. The moral compass does not absolve you. It points in all directions. We need to choose who we are loyal to. Our families, ourselves, our tribes, or the nation Nigeria. That is the biggest problem. We do not have loyalty to this nation, to this creed, to the flag. None of us are loyal to it. We serve first ourselves and our interests and those most important to us. And that is why we allow these type of ideas, these evil acts to continue in our society unchecked. These people that do these things, they're not hidden. We know them, we can find them. We can get access to this information. The question is, do we want it to stop? Everybody says yes, until we realize the consequence of that yes is some people aren't going to get paid, and some families are going to be broken, and some people aren't going to have their way anymore. And when you realize that the entire economy sponsors the livelihoods of communities, of villages, of families, then saying, oh, Nigeria should be a safe place is tantamount to ending the livelihoods of entire civilizations. That is what you are saying. You need to understand what it is to know what some people might be struggling to give up. That's what we're called to do, is to find ways to replace these necessary evils to them with more palatable means of sustenance. In spite of all this, hope is not lost. A new generation can rise and is rising above fear, corruption, chaos. Faith, courage, and wisdom, those are our weapons. We can rebuild and we can reclaim our communities. But we have to commit to the truth. If this is your first time here, my name is OJ. And all I talk about on this channel is faith and self-improvement. If that resonates with you, hit the subscribe button and check out the video on your screen. YouTube thinks you'll like it. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. Stay alert. Stay safe, guys. Peace.